Why, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are calling in from. I'm gonna do a quick sound check here, make sure we're sounding okay. Everything looks good on my end. Monitoring the chat, let me know if everything sounds good on your end. Be cool. Where are you guys calling in from today? I'm here in our Julius SF headquarters here in our studio. Really nice day today. I wish I was outside. Maybe one of these workshops, we should do it out in the park. It totally would be an awesome idea to do. Really excited for today's workshop. We do these twice a month. This is almost the end of August already. Time's flying. And the last couple of ones that we've done have been really, really fun. Last week we made Follow the mouse animation. Really, really cool. This week we'll try something else different. I'll share my screen in a little bit and go over. Before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to go and share my Typeform. Like I mentioned in the email, or even if you guys aren't aware, if you guys send us the email that you either signed up to Julius with or you plan on signing up, we'll give you guys free 1,000 credits. That's a lot of power for you just to get through, just start making some really cool things. If you haven't signed up already, just add in whatever email you're planning on doing, and then after this workshop, I'll add in the credits afterwards. A couple of other announcements today. We launched our creator program. One of the things that we want to see and just want to encourage is people making things with Julius. I'm going to go and share the link to that one as well. More info on this I'll share at the end of the workshop. But if you guys are curious, we do want people to make things with Julius, share them. We already see, if you follow us on Twitter, all these cool things that are being made from different sites, different games, landing pages. If you're interested, check it out. Ask me if you have any questions. But I wanted to share that with y'all because hopefully today, one of the cool things that we'll show is how you can make interesting things, interactive things, or at least something you would want to be proud to share on your socials with your audience. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, from Brazil, right on. Hello. Okay, we'll go and share. I'm going to switch over here, and then this is what I was thinking of covering today in today's workshop. This is one of my favorite things that I've been doing recently, going on Twitter, just scrolling, and then just seeing first something that looks interesting, right? Something that's interesting, aesthetic, something cool. You know, those are the three main checkboxes that I look for. And this one checked all of those. And the fourth one, this one went viral if you guys haven't seen this one already. Really aesthetic way of making QR codes. I'm 50% sure we can make something somewhat similar. We'll try to do our own spin on it, but hopefully after today's workshop, we'll have something that looks somewhat like this or in the same sort of vein in Julius. But it's really cool. You can just put in any sort of address, it looks like. It generates some sort of, in this case, like a cherry blossom looking tree. And I'm sure when you tap on it, it'll bring you to the part where you could scan it, right? So much better than other QR codes. Why do QR codes have to be ugly and boring? So we'll take a couple of different stabs at trying to do this. No guarantees if it's going to work out, but I'm pretty sure we can make something cool, if not similar, in Julius. We'll cover what we did last week in case you guys aren't in the loop. We made this follow the hand emoji. This one was really, really cool. We made a couple of those. We made this version, which is more of a dithered effect. So this is a 2D version of this, based off of something we saw on Twitter. And then we also made this guy here. I think this was the one that we liked the most. Let me see if I could find where we had published it too. Now, this one was a different take on it. This one was okay. It was a little bit more of the grainy looking one. But then we did, I believe it was this one here. And this was probably the best version. So let me grab the last one we had made here before we get started. Yep, so it was this version here. So it's like following the mouse around, and then we actually even got it to follow our camera too. So it kind of worked out. Even at the beginning of this one, I had never tried to make it before, so we sort of found our way, and that's how a lot of this works when you're working with Julius, and a lot of AI models too. Cool, so let's go ahead and start a new task. And let's one more time just check out the reference here. So again, you could just prompt Julius with what we want to try to do. I'm not going to say the whole entire thing because I don't want it to, I find it's easier to just break things down into more digestible steps at least, and maybe talk through the process, maybe even come up with a plan. If you ever use like Claude Code or Codex, making a plan is a great first way just to make sure, hey, is there anything else that we should be doing or maybe a different approach we should take? I'm going to describe what we want to do here, right? I know I want to do a QR code. I don't want to do a tree. I don't want to just copy his idea, but I want to try, when I was watching it earlier before the workshop, It would be cool to do something like a city, right? So you mentioned Brazil. Wouldn't it be cool if like it's not going to look exactly like Sao Paulo, for example, or not going to look exactly like San Francisco, for example, but maybe we could take some of the aspects of it. I mean, it's all just pixels and bricks, right? To maybe sort of make it look like the city, if you will. And then I was thinking maybe when we go to this part where it flips upward, it's maybe the flag or something. Maybe it's something that looks kind of cool, right? Ambitious, yes, but possible, 100%, I'm pretty sure. So we'll figure it out along the way. Um, all the models are available to you. Like I mentioned before, we'll give you guys 1,000 credits, but you'll have access to all these models too that you could select from. For this one, I've been using GPT 5.6 Soul, pretty decent. I would say Claude, all of them probably the same as well. But we have even more cost-effective models too. Really great for basic work or exploratory work, ones that don't require too much like really complex, maybe deep coding tasks, right? But in this case, maybe we'll try today with, let's see here. So many to choose from. We'll do Grok 4.6 today. We'll give it a shot. And then in this case, we'll say, one thing he did mention in his tweet was React Native Web GPU. I'm not familiar with this at all. I think it's a library. I think I found it here. I'm going to first try to give this to Julius and see if it's usable and it's compatible. It should be from what I've seen before, but I'm going to first ask it in one task. Possible to use this in Julius to build a basic QR, I'll say like a basic 3D QR code. First, we'll just ask it that question to get it started. Like we covered in last week's, if you guys didn't know, we do have parallel tasks too. So you could actually start up another one while this one's working. I find it very useful, especially when we only have an hour to work. So I'll say in this one, I want to build a QR code scanner, or not QR code scanner, a scannable QR code. I'm going to describe what we saw in the tweet, and then I'll also give it the tweet too. From I guess if you were to look at it from an angle, so at a 45-degree overview, it looks like, what's it called? Like the 16-bit, right? 16 or 32-bit, maybe like thing made out of blocks. I don't want to specify city just yet. We're going to keep it kind of tight. Made out of blocks. For example, something similar to like Roblox or Minecraft zoomed out. I'm just going to be broad. But when you tap it, we get panned to an overhead view, and we see the actual QR code. We'll see if that works, right? This is one of the approaches that we could try to take. I'll specify too, let's not do anything just yet. But let's think of a way we can make a basic MVP. You can give Julius the entire prompt if you wanted to. From my experience, if you just give it the whole idea, sometimes it'll bite off a little bit more than you can chew versus just taking it in steps and breaking it down into chunks. I've had personally better results with that, but it depends on what you're working on, right? If you're working on like a game, for example, maybe you don't need to give it all of the entire game. You can give it maybe the basic concepts. It could build the framework, and then you can build small parts of it. If you're building like a landing page, at that point, you can just give it the whole prompt. I think generally it's okay. If you're doing some of the more complex stuff like 3JS, or you're building multimodal, so if you're going from like video to image to something scrollable, I would break that up into chunks too. If you aren't familiar, check out our YouTube channel. We have all of the previous workshops that we've done. You can sort of see what worked, what didn't work, but I think for the most part, everything that we've covered, we found a way. And I think that's one of the underlying messages here. There generally is going to be a way to build this, right? Whether it's going to be exactly the same, I don't think so. But hopefully it'll capture some of the same elements. Okay, so it says no, we can't use React Native Web GPU in Julius. Makes sense. Good thing to double check first. We mainly will be working in HTML, so it's good to double check. But it's saying, hey, what Julius can do, a basic 3D QR code is totally doable. It's interactive, it can be static, and it can also be downloadable. So that's fine. I think for the MVP, that's something that we should be good. I just wanted to double check first to see. But you can use all libraries that are compatible with Julius. So 3JS is one, MediaPipe, that's another one that we commonly use in our videos from hand tracking, to anything else that you see that is programmable or codable, at least in JavaScript or even HTML too, is possible. Before we dive in, I'm going to take a look at the chat here. Recently experimented with the same idea of turning data into an interactive interface. Nice. And you built a 3D room. You should share it, yeah. We'll share some resources afterwards, but if you want to join our community Slack or even our Discord, we'd love to see what people are making with Julius. Okay, so yeah, here. So the trick is simple. The QR lives only on the tops of the blocks. That makes sense. So when we go to the pan up view, you'll see the QR code. Each QR module is one cube. Exactly, so it'll be somewhat similar like that. And then the hard constraints, we do need an actual minimum grid. That totally makes sense. Quiet zone, that makes sense. So maybe from one angle, you'll have like a blank layer of brick, so that way when you look at it overhead, you see the gaps. Cool, so let's first start. I just want to make sure that it sort of understands the concept. I'll say let's first start with a simple black and white one. I don't want it to get too complex just yet. That we can see and test, and ideally put in a bar on the bottom for us to enter a URL and see the city somewhat morph and change. I think this is a good first step. I don't want to get it too confused with some of the city stuff. I think that's a little bit easier to do because that at that point is just blocks, arranging the blocks and the colors of the blocks maybe. But first we'll see this, if it's capable of doing it. If you're not familiar with Julius and this is your first time hearing about us, all these different skills that we have available. I'm not sure why it's using the create slide skill. Not exactly sure if it actually even ended up using it, but it's one of the skills that it loaded. We have a whole bunch of other ones too, along with all these other tools, and hopefully after today's workshop we'll be able to cover a good chunk of those. You don't have to worry about knowing how to write or read code. I myself don't know how to do that either. So Julius will write and think through it just like you're using Codex or Claude or any other AI tool like Grok, for example. One thing that we did last workshop, which I thought was interesting take, was just sending the same exact prompt in multiple different parallel tasks and then just giving it to different AI agents and just seeing what worked best, like which model worked best. We tried it with MuseSpark last time, and then we tried it with GPT 5.6, which I thought did pretty well. I think that's my go-to daily driver, at least recently, but give it a shot with any model and you could really see what's going on. Okay, so this one's good. I'm just gonna pin this one at the top. This is our main workhorse here. One thing that you could do, and I like doing this, especially if you're on a time crunch, is do research, do exploratory things. So maybe, for example, if I wanted to later do an analysis of, if I wanted to build like the city aspect of it, maybe I should have some sort of like working doc, like a markdown doc that explains like, hey, for San Francisco, you might see tall skyscrapers and those bay style houses, right? Like the painted ladies. Or if you're in Japan, you might see a different type of architecture. Or if you're in Munich, you might see some of the old Bavarian style houses, right? Or Sao Paulo too. So maybe we could have another agent in the meantime go, I want to build, I think I remember it said voxel city, voxel-esque block city based on real architecture from around the world. Can you gather me just, I'll say like say first, can you build a markdown file based on research, gathering colors, type, like shapes of buildings and types of buildings based on these regions, and we'll do it like this. We'll do one for Sao Paulo, so I think that'd be cool. So something from Brazil, so Sao Paulo. We'll do one for San Francisco. We'll do one. What other cities should we do? We should do maybe like 5 different cities and see if Julius can do it. We'll do one for. It should be like a distinct style of city. Maybe one for. We'll do like an Asian country, so maybe something like Hong Kong. We'll do one for, where else? We should do somewhere like in Africa. I think that'd be pretty cool. Somewhere like Nairobi. And then maybe one other one, if anyone has any ideas. Somewhere in Europe, maybe, somewhere else. I would think it'd be kind of cool. Something that has distinct styles. Something for us to come up to. We'll start with these 4 first. Paris. Okay, I like it, Paris. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, let's try it. Can you do research and build that markdown file. And one of my favorite things to do whenever I do work with Julius is if I already have like a vague understanding of what I want, like 50%, I always end my prompts with, ask me as many questions as you need so we get a better result. And I'm actually going to switch us over to, we'll do GPT 5.6 with this one. And we'll cook that. But I love starting up tasks. I think first, it's not just performative work. I think it does help, especially when you have one that's doing deep coding stuff. What do you do while you're waiting? I like to do research or build something that could help in parallel. So in this case, I'll ask it, okay, so this is somewhat one version. This is a good first version. And then what we do is you flip a view and it'll show like this. This is okay, right? This is good and basic. I kind of want it to be a little bit brighter. There's going to be a lot of nits, so I try not to dive too deep on the nits, but basically I can't really see anything in this. But it sort of understands the concept of what we're trying to do, right? We want to see it from an angle where it really doesn't even look like a QR code, and ideally it'll look like the buildings of the places we put in. Ooh, Venice, that's a good one. Okay, I'll put Venice in and Cairo as well. I think we'll see if it's able to do all four of those, all five of those, I mean. And then something like this, but here it has to be like scannable, right? This could just be an aspect of it being in this window versus the published window, but sort of gets it, right? I didn't really have to instruct it too much on like the animation style or the way that the camera moves. The one thing that we will need to do though is have it like rotate. If I go back to the one here, it comes at 45 degrees, and then when it goes overhead, it's actually a straight square that's flat at the bottom here. So that way it looks like a QR code that's scannable. That's the only other feedback that I'll give it. So here we'll just say, this is great. Let's make sure the entire environment is, and this one helps me a lot. If I want it to be like an infinite white room, something from like the Matrix or something from like X-Men, for example, I'll just say giant white construct simulator room that's infinite, so it's easy to see all of the blocks and isn't as dark. And then usually whenever I do like 2 different or 3 different things, or if I want to make any adjustments, I'll cap it at 2 or 3 things in the same prompt. I've tried giving it like 10 different notes, and it usually gets some of it. It usually gets like maybe 8 out of 10 of them, and then I'll have to go back through my message and find what it missed. I've had better results where I just do smaller chunks of updates. And if it's a really meaningful update, I'll just limit to just one, I think. But this is a couple good things, small tweaks that I'll have to make. And then finally, when the QR code is clicked and we see the overhead view, make sure the QR code rotates so it's, how would you say it, like square, with it being 0 degrees or flat on the bottom. That's the one thing you realize, how much of it actually comes from you being able to take it out of your head and give it to Julius, to whatever AI agent that you're using, right? So you have the vision. I think you all know exactly what I'm talking about. How do you get that on paper? That's essentially the skill that I've been trying to build up recently. You learn so much from this. So it's flat horizontally. But yeah, it definitely is a skill, right? It's being able to communicate what you see, or even if you don't know, just generally describing like the interaction, right? Even in this one, I started with just the 45. I didn't know if it was going to really understand the 45-degree view, but it looks like it captured it. We'll have to see when it's a little bit brighter, but 45 degrees seems to be the right description. White construct is another one. I love the idea of like an infinite white room. It's just easier to build in and just look at things, but I didn't have a name for it, but construct is apparently that name. White room, it'll sometimes build like a literal room with walls and corners and stuff, but that's a small tangent. Let's see how our other task and friend is doing. So here's some of the tools that we have, like I mentioned before. We have a search tool for Julius to use. We even have a browser. I'm curious if it had used it. But you see it's going through and it's gathering all the different stuff. And the cool thing here is it built the research guide. I can click it to download it. I actually just want to view it here if possible. Let's see if it'll load it here. And you can actually view all these different files in the File Explorer on the right side here. So I'll expand it open a little bit just so we can take a look. And it built the architecture guide. So Sao Paulo, San Francisco, Hong Kong, Nairobi, and Paris. And it got some of the palettes down. I haven't been to all these places. I know that we've probably seen them, or if you guys have ever been there, we'll see if it was able to capture some of the aestheticness of those places. Okay, general markdown file. I'll add in those last few cities. Let's say, can you try, that's perfect. I don't know if it's perfect, but we'll say perfect. Can you also add in Paris, Cairo, and Venice, please? Thank you. Again, you don't have to say please and thank you. I find it makes me in a better headspace to be kind and polite when we're working with someone, just like you're working with any other coworker, and we'll see if it's able to do it together. Cool. The cool thing here, whenever you give feedback and you want to make small changes, you don't need to regenerate the whole entire file. It does regenerate the artifact. That's something that our team is working on, so it only makes tweaks to it, but the underlying file and code, we're only making targeted changes there in order to get what we want, right? So for example, if I had generated like a whole presentation, it doesn't make sense when I tell it to update one slide for it to update the whole presentation or regenerate it from scratch. It's pretty wasted effort, really. But in this case, we're making small changes, and that's called our patch tool. Apply fixes and apply patches. All right, this is okay. So I would say a couple things that we'll have to change now that we could actually see it, right, is there needs to be some more definition between some of the blocks, right? If I were to tell you that this is a city, this might look like, I don't know, Kowloon or something that has all the same size buildings, all equal. This is decent for our first version. I haven't told it anything about it needing to look like a city just yet. But this is one idea. And the other thing that we'll have to do in the next version is tell it that it needs to be more zoomed out, right? That's an easy fix. I'm not going to give it that just yet, but maybe pull it back a little bit and then zoom out even more, right? I really do think we want it to look like a city though. And the other thing that we'll probably try to do is add in a little bit more greenery if possible. That's maybe one thing that we'll see in the markdown file is some of these cities that we're trying to bake in here, they have landscapes, they have nature inside, or maybe they don't, you know, maybe it's completely like, I don't know, like Barcelona, for example, or Madrid, where there's just blocks of buildings, you know, but we'll try this out first. I'll start to give it some of the city aspect, right? So, and first let's try out one more thing. I want to see if it does like, if we go to google.com, for example. Oh, how cool, look at that. So it's actually shifting while you're going, right? Oh, that's awesome. So maybe if I try like facebook.com, does it shift it? Oh, that's gonna look sick. Okay, well, I kind of like that. It's a little bit different from this version, right? This one just changes the trees and it sort of just builds it morphing style, but I really kind of like that. So if I go like facebook.com, or if we go to like myspace.com, look at that shifting. Isn't that kind of aesthetic? Reminds me of Chernobyl for some reason when the reactor is overloading and they have the little beams sticking up, but that's so cool. I'll try one more. That's really satisfying. I think that's going to be a hit. So we'll try like maybe, let's see, I'm blanking on some site names. Julius, I see, that's kind of cool, right? I'm sure it's going to look even cooler when we add in more definition. Okay, so I'll say I want to build this into cities. One thing we'll need to do is add in some height and some height. And like height doesn't just mean like make all the blocks taller, right? It means there needs to be like differing elevations, differing, see, this is the prompting, it comes in mind. It's like the differing heights and elevations, which we'll later use to style it in the effect of a city. Can you try that out? And also let's zoom the 45 camera out more so we can see more of the city and zoom the overhead a bit more. I find those type of prompts are okay. Giving it some sort of point of reference in order how far to zoom is really helpful. I find especially if you do visual work with Julius, it helps really describing even more in depth than you would normally think you would have to, because the model isn't really scanning the image of what it looks like all the time. Sometimes it'll do it if you tell it to scan it and take a look. A lot of other times it'll just look at the code and be like, I should zoom it out a little bit. You sort of have to put on your director hat if you're like Francis Ford Coppola. Diversity of structures, I love that. Okay, so we'll be a little bit more specific. More diversity in structures. And I want to give it a point of reference. We'll zoom the camera out more by like 20%. And then also the overhead view, like we'd have to be at least, here I'm not going to be a number, I'm just going to say so we can see the entire grid. So, okay, so we'll try this out and see if it's able to update it. And the last thing I'll do, I'll go back over here and see if we finished our Markdown file, and it looks like we did. So Paris is, oh, I already included Paris, that's good, and then Cairo and Venice, all right. Cool, so let me click this guy, we'll download it. The other really cool thing, and maybe we'll have to do this, is if your chats, your files, your conversation is getting really large, and it's generally not going to be an issue more with the sandbox, meaning the computer has a lot of RAM and a lot of memory already. But if the conversation gets longer and longer, then Julius has to either compact all that information and give it to whatever model provider you're using, and then they have to send it back, and it'll just keep on growing and growing and growing like a Chipotle burrito, if you will. Or you could export the key files and then start a brand new chat, smaller, and then it'll grow again eventually, but at least you're starting again from a small spot. A couple ways that you could do that. You can download the file by clicking on the link. You could ask Julius for a zip file of the key links. The other one you could do here is click on this in the upper right corner of the Files tab. This lets you download all the files that are in your sandbox or your cloud computer, right? I find this generally helpful, especially if I've done like 10 back and forth with Julius in the same chat. If you watch like your token counter, you'll see that it's starting to grow quite a bit. Also, it takes a lot of time for Julius to sort of build things versus if you had just started from scratch, if that makes sense. I'll walk through what that looks like in our other chat with the QR code. I'm sure we'll have to do it at some point. But you could just download the file and you can restart a brand new conversation fresh from scratch without losing the context, without all the different expanded context window, if you will. Small little cheat code. And a lot of people ask like, hey, my conversations are getting huge, the file is becoming untenable, my computer can't handle it, I can tell that Julius is kind of struggling. Just start a brand new chat with it. Generally helps. All right, so we'll see what it cooks up here. If you're just joining us, I did share. I'm not sure if YouTube keeps the link in the chat, but this is the one for just sharing with us your email. I don't even know if I shared the right. I did share the right one before. Share with us your email, and then we'll add in the free 1,000 credits. Should be plenty enough. We'll see how much credits this had done. I'm sure we could have cut down some of these prompts, but okay, this is getting close, right? I could easily imagine. If this was like San Francisco or Manhattan maybe, and then this is somewhat better, right? I think the one thing is the window is just a little too small. As one little test thing we can do is I'm gonna publish it first, and then we'll see what it looks like from this view. Even this view, it's kind of still not zoomed out enough, right? If I wanted to scan this, I'm missing some parts of it. And the other thing to call out here is I really don't want to know that it's a QR code at first. When I eventually share this on Twitter, I want people to be like, oh, look at that city, isn't that kind of cool? And then bam, it's just like a QR code from above. So similar to the diversity structure, there's parts of this, I don't know what this is called, but the square parts, where it's obviously a QR code, you could still make those out here. I'm sure it'll help when we actually do the coloring and the style of the images, maybe. But we'll see what that looks like. But let me see if the animation stuck around. So if I do Google, oh, that's so satisfying. That is really cool. Maybe there's something in the next version of it too. We could have it really just morph it, like update even the parts that don't really change. Like if you notice the square parts I was talking about earlier, these don't change, but even if those shuffled around a little bit I think it would be really satisfying. But okay, before we do that, I just want to see what this looks like with some color. So I'll share with it the file. So all you have to do is drag it, and you can do zips too. Julius is able to unzip it in its sandbox. I have had a friend do some research on the styles of, forgive my typing, but it doesn't really matter as much anymore nowadays, right? The styles of famous cities and metropolitan areas. Can we bake this into into the QR code in some way, into the QR voxels or the boxes or voxels, voxels or boxes. Main thing we want to accomplish here is it should look like the city in some aspects in the 45-degree view. I'll give some tips. So you may need to vary the heights or make them more uniform. Or you may need to make some blocks. I don't know where I was going with that. I think this is fine. We'll see what it's able to do here. But the main thing I want to see in this next version is if it's able to at least represent roughly what the city might look like. If it was like Tokyo, for example, I would imagine it has skyscrapers. It might have some of the cultural landmarks. If it was like San Francisco, it looks very similar to this actually, like a big downtown area. But my question is like, with the colors applied or some other aspects of it, would it actually look like it from this view, or is it just going to change the colors of the blocks? The other thing that we might need to do, right, is if we look at his version, I'm not sure how much of them are actually literal flat top. Well, they are kind of flat top blocks, right? But they're actually quite more dense. There's a lot more going on here from this view. So it is kind of more of a blob from the side. Or what I'm concerned about is like, if no matter how you change the colors of this, is it actually going to represent the city? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But I feel pretty good about this so far. This is decent. Especially, I really do like the changing of this. It's just so cool. So Amazon.com and just seeing it morph. It's just, especially if it like if you have like a toggle maybe later that has like all the cities, or you have it change colors in the middle too. That would be really, really cool. But we'll see. This is why I love doing these workshops. There really is no one right or wrong way to do this. We're just sort of feeling our way through it, seeing what the AI can cook up, seeing what we like and don't like, and then just going from there. But this one was just so cool. This guy really does a lot of cool work, but this one really took off quite a bit. He even someone added in like a Minecraft version. Look at that. I don't know how I feel about adding a Minecraft version when it's a city. We'll just let it be just a city by itself and see what it's able to cook up here. I am wondering, so for example, if we look up like Nairobi skyline, yeah, I remember some of these buildings. It's like the one thing you would probably want to capture is like the nice like Kenyan aspect of it, like the savannah and everything too, the outdoors and the nature. But if it was like San Francisco skyline, yeah, it's just tall buildings next to water, right? So we'll see if we're able to capture some of that. Maybe that's some of the things that we could have given it more of. It's not just the buildings we're capturing, it's like the surrounding area, like the water if there's water, or parks if there's parks or something. You know, I'm not sure how much is doable with just this amount of blocks, but we'll definitely have to tell it we'll need to zoom out more and make sure that this is scannable too. That's the other part. While this is cooking, I did share the links already, but if you do want, join our community Slack. We're always posting in there. Great place for you to just share what you're working on. Or if you want, you can also just share or see what the team's working on too from Julius' side. We're always posting like features that are coming out, the new videos, new things like the new models that we're releasing and everything. But if you also have questions too, a great place for you to reach out as well. If you have any other concerns, if it relates to like your account or just things in general, a couple other resources for you. You can go to the documentation. Has all the different tools that we've been talking about, as well as all the different features. And you could reach out to our support team or our team here. You can go to team@julius.ai or click on the help and it'll open up our help center in the bottom right. This is still in Spanish. I still got to do a Spanish speaking webinar. Maybe we'll do one next week. I think that'll be pretty cool. Hi, you just joined a bit late. Would it be best to start from the beginning or stay live? Up to you. If you want to interact and ask questions, probably stay live and then just let me know. Or you can just hop from the beginning. So far, if you are just catching up and you want just a brief TLDR, we're trying to recreate this really cool thing that Enzo had posted on Twitter earlier this week. And it was just a QR code generator, but you actually really don't know it's a QR code until you look at it from the top. And just watching that over again, I could tell those squares I was talking about, they still look like squares in his. The only thing is the coloring, right? I think the coloring does a lot for it, so maybe that's something we'll instruct it to do. But we're trying to build it here in Julius, so we're about, I would say, halfway through, corresponds with how much time we have. The main thing that we want to do is get the city aspect of it and see if it's able to capture, I don't know, some sort of hint of it being San Francisco or it being like some other city. I'd be curious to know like if it's able to do it, right? If you were to recreate San Francisco in blocks, it's a different take on it. We'll have to see what that looks like. Okay, so this is the new version, right? Yeah, it is kind of artistic. This one looks not bad. It does. I don't know if the colors really sit well with me. This doesn't give off. Kind of gives off Paris, like some of those Paris. If you look at some of their buildings, right, they have those whatchamacallit, the arrondissements, right? So like some of these areas, like these buildings that are kind of like this kind of gives me that, but then again, it is just a square with a hole in it. Let's see if it did some of the other styles. So maybe if we try San Francisco. Not really. It doesn't really do it. Sao Paulo, this doesn't, I don't think that does. Kind of, but still, I think the one thing that it really didn't get right is the colors. Let's go back to let's see, Venice, for example. It's the colors that look okay, right? So that it's really pulling from like the Tower of Venice, right? So this guy, St. Mark's Campanile, kind of looks like the same coloring, but it really kind of didn't get exactly what we wanted, right? A few things that we might have to change is the density of the voxels, right? So if it literally is just these one blocks, it's not going to be enough, right? So we'll give it some feedback here. So from the 45-degree view, this doesn't really give the essence of these cities. Maybe we need to focus on skylines and notable architecture. Maybe we need to make the blocks maybe like a quarter of this, or a quarter of the blocks, meaning we get more pixels and voxels to work with. This is kind of vague feedback, but we'll see if it's able to cook this up first. I just want to try some of these other cities. Okay, so this kind of looks, it sort of understands some of the aspects of it, right? So like Hong Kong skyline, right? Very tall buildings, a lot of them compacted together, right? So some of the similar colors. Which one haven't we looked at? So like I really did kind of like the Hong Kong of all of them so far, just because that looks like, you know, Hong Kong, they have so many buildings that are like that. But what's getting me is maybe like the top parts of these are too flat, right? Where it could help to have more definition is the right word I'm looking for. To get more pixels and block to work with, to give these buildings more definition rather than just flat tops. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually save my prompt somewhere. And we're going to do what I talked about earlier. I'm going to switch this over to a brand new chat. I want to try a different model out. But first, I'll show you guys what I was talking about earlier. Let's keep this last version and remove any other non-relevant files from Sandbox so I can pick this up in another conversation. I think we're good at we're like at a 60% point. I think we're on the right path here. It's just we need to make the tops look different and they don't need to all look black. Like especially in this case, it just breaks the illusion of it, right? If I go back to his version, I think none of the cubes are black. I think they were just all this, and then you assume that we could scan this later. It doesn't need to be a black QR code. Versus this is literally just the top is black. So that's the other feedback that I'll give it too. I feel like we're getting close though. I think this isn't bad. Like if I just started or shared this with someone from scratch, they'd be like, oh, that looks like a city, right? So I think that aspect of it kind of works, but we still just need a little bit more work on this. I'm trying to envision, like, if this does kind of, yeah, like what would Paris look like in my mind in blocks, right? That's sort of what we tried to capture with the research, right? With some of it. Like, what would San Francisco look like? It would look like some tall buildings, and maybe you have landmarks, so like a Golden Gate Bridge would be kind of sick. So if I were to do this again from scratch, I would maybe just focus on one city at a time and get that one like really down. But I kind of do like being able to just see all of them just to see what the difference is. Cool, so we have all the files now. So if I actually go to the Files tab, you'll see we only have that last version that we just made. And we have any other relevant things here. I could just download this as a zip like before, and we'll start a brand new chat. Again, this is really helpful, especially after you do like 10 revisions. Some of the 3D, if you follow me on Twitter, some of the 3D ones that I was working on took maybe 4 or 5 chats, you know, and especially at the very end when they're getting very, very long, it helped so much to just wipe it and start it over from scratch using just the key files. It's not ideal. We're going to work on ways to make it more seamless, but just for now, since sites are only a couple weeks old, this is one of the ways that we can do it. So I'll start here. Let's pick this conversation up. You'll notice here I'm going to try with GPT 5.6 Soul. This is my go-to. It's my workhorse. And then I'll give it the prompt. And then the other thing I'll have to mention is also the tops shouldn't be just all the same color. There's a lot more other feedback I want to give it, but let's just start with this. I don't want to overload it with too much concepts. It would be perfectly fine and able to handle it, but I just don't want to risk us potentially making it get lost. Speaking of which, have you guys ever been to any of these cities before? Out of all of these ones, I've never actually been to Paris. I've never been to Cairo. I've never been to Venice. I've never been to Sao Paulo. I guess I haven't been to a lot of these places either. I've only been to, I haven't even been to Hong Kong. I've only been to the Hong Kong airport. But San Francisco, yeah, it looks like the skyline is pretty iconic, I would say. It's just easy to know because there's just some specific buildings. But I guess in just the block form, it's kind of hard to tell. We need a little bit more things to work with, I guess, is one way I would say it. I think we're onto something though. I think this is going to be cool. I just love doing this sort of exercise. It's a good sort of brain teaser, right? We're trying to think through how can we recreate this and sort of direct it in the same sort of way, you know? Yeah, I think it's easy with you have like one object, so like a tree, but with the city, it's going to be a little challenging, a little tricky. But I believe in us. I believe we'll find a way. So you see here, it's actually doing what I mentioned earlier. So we have that whole HTML file. It's just like any other file you're working on. And instead of regenerating it from scratch, Julius is just going in and making targeted changes. It knows that, hey, Tyler said we don't need to do the same color top of the blocks. So it's just going to go in there and update it, right? It's going in and saying like, hey, we want maybe a quarter of the block size. So we can have even more definition. It's going to go through and just change exactly what it needs to. There's no need for it to generate the whole entire file from scratch, which has been cool to see, really. It's been cool to just have that sort of evolution between the beginning and the middle and the end, and just seeing how files and the file evolves and the artifact itself evolves too. Okay. That would be so cool. I just got a thought in my head, right? Like it would be cool if, say for example, like the city does look like a city. It would be cool to add in like cars and stuff, wouldn't it? Or just like little moving objects like cars, people in some way. And then you go to the overhead view and it just looks like a city, but it's also just a functioning QR code. I think that would be awesome. But we'll do one chunk at a time. But that's the part, is just sort of like we're thinking through it. Of course, I didn't have that thought when we first started, but just seeing this evolve just makes me wonder if you could just do like, I don't know, there's that one game, I can't remember the name of it. It's something similar, but we'll see what we're able to cook up here. Yeah, this is crazy. This is like the first version. So again, the coloring does help a little bit, for sure. But I think the one big thing is just the definition of the blocks. Just having that be like a quarter or half will be enough. Then we could really add in some more definition. Julius does do this sometimes. It's something that I would have given it feedback is don't look at it itself. Like I'll be its eyes to judge. Right? I do find sometimes it does get stuck here. You could stop it and just say like, hey, you don't need to do that. Which I might just do here. I'm just gonna stop it and say, no need to use the browser. I'll QA it. Can you finish updating and load the HTML here? Has all the context anyways and was running those steps. The files have been changed, so I can validate it for it. Let's see. Whoa, okay, so this looks... Okay, maybe it's just Paris. Paris just looks kind of off, but you can definitely tell that there's more definition, right? And then it does turn like that, but that one's really hard to see with the background because some of the buildings are white. Let's try some of the other ones. Let's look at San Francisco. Okay, I could see that there's more difference here. I think the big thing is just the colors are not correct, right? It really took the palette seriously. But none of the buildings in San Francisco are post-it yellow, white, or yellow, I mean. Hong Kong, I think that was the one that was one of my favorites before. It's okay, some of the difference in sizes here are kind of off. Nairobi, okay. But I do think having it have different heights and breaking the blocks into 4 really did help out quite a bit. Paris, for example, that was just really hard to see. Cairo, I'm not familiar with Cairo's skyline, but okay. And then Venice. I think this one had really relied on some of these oranges. You know what Venice, does Venice have a skyline? Oh, okay, so you sort of see it's that same colors, right? The thing we're just missing out on is the, we'll give it a couple more things of feedback here. So 2 more things I want to update. So first, let's not rely too heavily on the colors. Let's use the buildings themselves to paint or use the buildings to tell the viewers where we're at as priority. Look, other things, so like Paris, really hard to see because of the white. Also add in green in the buildings or park areas or something to make it not look like just a block of cities, buildings, I mean. And then the last thing I'll give it feedback on is we still need to zoom out more. So still need to zoom out the top-down view more so we can see the whole QR code. And then the last thing, this is kind of a lot, but I kind of want to get all these steps in. The last thing was Hong Kong is way too big. So this one, it's just going completely out of the picture. So let's also make sure Hong Kong doesn't go out of camera. Lower the heights of all buildings by like 20%. We'll see if it's able to cook this up. But we're getting close though. That definitely looks a lot better than the first version, right? So the other version before, you could see all the black tops of the buildings here, so that really did break the illusion. Paris' one is, I think, the worst one out of all of them so far. But San Francisco's not bad. It's just the color is still kind of not there. But this could sort of be like a Market Street, some of the towers and some of the buildings. But I think it's coming along. What do you guys think? It's not terrible. Definitely needs some help. Especially, yeah, this isn't bad because there's like differing heights between like some of the industrial area and like the surrounding areas like south of Market, for example, and some of the skyline. If I were to rank them, I did like I think the Cairo one looks pretty decent. And the Venice one's not bad. It's kind of hard. If I were to do this again from scratch, I would tell it to make the blocks even smaller. So maybe like do another quartering here, right? It's hard to capture like the curvature of buildings or curvature of objects when you only have, I don't know, 32 pixels to work with, which is what we were doing initially, right? We were working with just 16 pixels, I think, across and on the sides. But if you had maybe like 4 times as many, sure, it might not look like a QR code from like this view or this view as much when it's not as boxy, but you should still be able to capture some of the effect, right? Like if I wanted to do like Munich, for example, Munich has a lot of buildings that are more domed, right? For example, and some of these cathedral-esque looking buildings. I think this is probably the most iconic one here at the Marienplatz. But if you were to do this, it would help having more definition, right? You wouldn't really be able to capture this in a couple pixels. It's similar to the challenges that I guess game developers faced back in the 90s and when their video games were first coming out, you only had so many bits to work with, right? And then we'll see if it's able to keep this. If I wanted to go to like google.com, that looks good. We would work on the animation a little bit more. Okay, this makes me kind of nervous. I'm not sure exactly what happened over here, but we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so here it looks like something happened wrong, so I'll just say I can't see anything. Whole screen is black. Double check you didn't break anything. And this is one of the benefits of like having the download tool. It's like if any parts of this goes wrong and it like breaks something, you have all the files, including all of the older versions too that we had just made. But we'll see if it's able to figure it out. This isn't bad. I think if I were to do it from scratch one more time, I would do, yeah, smaller blocks and then tell it like it needs to make like some of the windows different too. But I think that's not, like that's really small nits and small details to work on afterwards. San Francisco's not bad. It captured some of the aspects, but just the coloring is off. Hopefully it fixed that in the next version. Close though. What does Sao Paulo look like? Oh, they have that one. Yeah, let's see. Like it would be cool to capture like some of this aspect, like bridges and stuff. Like this shows up in multiple, so yeah, this bridge would be really cool to capture. I guess one thing we could have told it was like, I guess in this version, there's stuff that's floating, right? It's a good way to make like objects that aren't just all skyscrapers or things that come from the bottom up. Maybe we'll give that one bit more feedback. Okay, see, okay, so this is a little bit better. We can see from the outskirts here, it's just the color of that still looks kind of off. This is okay. Sydney has a great, yeah, it does, huh? The Sydney Harbor Bridge, wouldn't that be sick to put in there? Nairobi looks really good. Like, look at, it's able to capture like the outskirts and effects like that, right? Okay, we'll give it one more pass here. We'll say, there's one thing I see right here is that these are kind of glitching out a little bit. Could just be an artifact of the URL. Maybe if we try a different one. No, I think it's okay. It's just when you're initially changing over, there's some of these that are kind of glitching. We'll say, last thing, we need to capture more of the iconic buildings and places. you don't have to do purely blocks that are touching the ground here if you need to make more shapes and structures. So we'll start with that. San Francisco, try to add in the Golden Gate Bridge somewhere. We'll see if he's able to cook that up. Overall, this isn't bad. I would say this is probably like an 8 out of 10 of what I was envisioning. But then again, I don't know how exactly you would capture like San Francisco in blocks. That itself would be its own tool, right? So it'd be like San Francisco, build it in blocks. You would have to really like give it specific feedback here. I just gave it the color palette. I gave it some general themes from the other agent. Again, that's something we generated with the parallel agent. And then the other part I would do differently is just the size of the pixels. I think that's the only other thing. I think that itself would help out quite a bit to give you more of the city effect. We'll see what's able to do. Hello, nice to see you. Nice, I think there's always cool to see cool things and try to build them. Different ways that you can go, different approaches that you can go. So this is one way that we could try to do it. Is that what it's called? So the Rialto Bridge. Ah, it's like this guy. Interesting. So I want to see, like, if you give it specific like landmarks, you could just keep jamming on it, right? The part that I still don't like really is that the top of these are all still flat, right? You don't really need to do that. You could add in a diversity of shapes and stuff. You could even do like triangles, because at the end of the day, you're flipping over and it looks, first it's coloring all the building's tops black anyways. So you should still be able to scan it. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's so, like it's more so the skill that you're developing is just you have a picture in your mind of just being able to see what someone did and then see if you could do your own spin on it, right? And of course the approaches are going to be different, but just being able to describe what you want or describe your vision, it's your own sort of way of directing, right? Like your own cinematographer, if you will. I think we're close though. It's not bad for V0 for sure. Like Hong Kong just captures it so much. It's just some of the blocks, it looks like some of these top blocks, something I would rework. And the other thing I would do is like the sides of these buildings, or some way to well, that as the last one is being able to pan and rotate around, not just being locked to the 45 degree. I think that would be really, really cool. The other thing is double checking whether or not like the QR is actually visible. So it always struggles with Hong Kong because the buildings are so tall. This version's not too bad. All right. But for San Francisco, let's see what it's able to cook up. All right, iconic structures added. So it did this for Paris still. Paris is probably my least favorite one so far. It looks like it tried to add like the Louvre here. San Francisco. Oh my gosh. That doesn't make any sense. Where did it go too? Does it just vanish? Okay, we might have bit off a little too much more than we can chew here, but I have no idea where it went. It just put it in the middle of the city. It was a good try. I can't. Hong Kong is okay. I think he was going to add one for, where is it? Venice? Oh, that's cool. So there is a way that you could make it. So maybe one thing I did wrong maybe in the beginning was focusing too much on the blocky effort. Maybe if you just started again from just the city, for example. I don't know how that would work. But if you tried like Google again, do the landmarks stay, or is it just kind of build around it? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it does look sort of different, huh? It's not bad by any means. It's something different. The only thing I would try different is, again, just the pixels. Maybe I'll try in the next version, but that's going to be it for today. I think this is decent. I'm going to share the link here if you guys want to try it out. I'll also share the files, too, if you guys want, in the community Slack to just jam on it. But this one, we'll call this one cityqr v0.julius.site. It's not bad. I think I would just do a little bit more of the landscapes though, but it's not bad for a V0 for sure. Nairobi, I think my favorite out of all these is like probably, I think Cairo looked really decent. Oh, look, it tried to add like the pyramids and stuff too. So there is a way that you could sort of make sure you capture all of the iconic things that would make it obviously the city, even if there was no colors. I don't know what it added there. Um, but then San Francisco just added this one Golden Gate Bridge in the middle. But I'll share this guy here. Thank you guys so much for joining. We do these every other week. We'll probably do one next week too for Spanish speaking, so that way we can just get more coverage around the world. If there's something that you'd love to see us build, please share. Share it in the Discord or in the Julius Slack channel, and then we'll try to build it. If there's any cool that you see on Twitter, or there's anything that you just kind of want to, oh, I'm not sure how that would work, love to solve them together here. Hope you have a great rest of your morning, evening, or night, wherever you're calling in from. Thank you again for joining, and then we'll see you guys in the next workshop. Again, please do add in your emails onto the form, and then right after this, we'll add the credits to your account. Thank you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys later. Bye.